Fighting games have been gaining a huge notoriety in recent times, especially with record-breaking numbers at Evil, which is known to still be fighting games in that matter, a niche type of population, and a niche within a niche, which is a 3D fighting type style game, which is Tekken. But for some odd reason, it still remains the only superior 3D fighting game in history. And by a long shot, especially with Tekken 8. Now they have amped up the aggression, just like the way they did with Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat 9. And I guess sort of recent times back in the day. I wouldn't say back in the day because Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 is back in the day. But fighting games now, in my opinion, are gaining a lot of popularity due to, one, gaming hasn't been this massive threshold that we had seen in past times, right? There's not no groundbreaking console being announced yet, unless Switch 2 is going to be announced. There's not no really groundbreaking genre. A lot of people thought it was going to be like FPS extraction type games. I don't think they made enough noise yet, at least up until this point, aside from the Escape from Tarkov and other like those types of games. But we've never seen anything explode since like Battle Royale, like Warzone in its peak. And of course Fortnite and PUBG, and of course H1Z1, all that stuff. But like fighting games, in my opinion, are scratching and clawing away. It's not just some big old burst where fighting games are gonna just take over automatically. I feel it's starting to scratch away at it. Fighting games are now winning the long game on how and what it means to feel the importance of legacy. Now, I will go back to Tekken a lot. I'll say Tekken and Street Fighter, right? I know Street Fighter 5 didn't get good till later on in its development. Like, it's released when it was already almost on its way to Street Fighter 6, and I know. But that's kind of like Mortal Kombat 1 right now. I feel Mortal Kombat 1's going to be developed later to where people will actually like it towards the back end, and then they'll come into another Mortal Kombat, especially since Mortal Kombat is actually probably not going to be a Warner Bros. Anymore. That's kind of like what a lot of insights are saying right now, and I think to be true, that probably might happen. Might not get as much marketing, but it's Mortal Kombat, so we don't know what they're going to do with that IP anyway, but yeah, anyways. So Tekken, in my opinion, with the superior numbers, Tekken and Street Fighter, right? Now we're going to go into the Olympics aspect. I talked about this a lot in my videos too, and I had a lot of y'all really talk about the insights of the Olympics. And with the Olympics in fighting games, right, in my opinion, the only type of games that are going to get into the Olympic are fighting games and nothing that's similar to like actual stimulation, meaning like NBA 2K, Madden, college football, which are all great, but you can't just have the likeliness of those players in Olympics. You know what I mean? Those are real athletes. Like, they could actually compete in those type of real sports. Like, people are like raving for like baseball and everything like that to come around. So yeah, there's no way you'll be able to do like the MLB show and all that stuff. So obviously those would be the next best in line games for esports if you're not doing an FPS game. Now, in my opinion, first in line should always be FPS games, but the reason why I talk about fighting games being the best game in totality, at least overall, because fighting games now are starting to capitalize on at least Tekken. Let's talk from a Tekken and Street Fighter standpoint, capitalizing on their legacy players. If you learn these mechanics in these games, it's literally carrying over forever. Mortal Kombat changes its mechanics a lot. From 9, 11, and now Mortal Kombat 1, which is ass. They've already sold the most copies, at least at launch. I think Tekken 8's already catching up again. But if Mortal Kombat would have kept the same exact mechanics that everybody knows, you know what I mean? Like, kind of like what they were sort of doing with that 3D era aspect of those releases. If they would have kept these last 4, like, NetherRealm run, basically the NetherRealm versions of Mortal Kombat. Because you gotta think, MKDC was 3D. MK9 was amazing, the GOAT. MKX probably is even better in a competitive state, and it's actually faster. 11 was hot ass, don't care what anybody says. And then Mortal Kombat 1 right now. They're all different games. 5 games in a row, all through NetherRealm, are all different. There's a lot of different mechanics in those games, and a lot of learning curves that kind of almost forces you to start all over learning again. While Tekken just continuously brings it. If anything, Tekken has made Tekken 8 far more accessible. And so now what I think with fighting games, and even Call of Duty has been changing a lot. Like Modern Warfare 2 2022 is probably the worst Call of Duty in the history from Infinity Ward. And their mechanics changed drastically due to that. And Call of Duty people hated it. Why? Because Call of Duty are legacy players. It's the same mechanics over and over and over again, similar to what I was talking about earlier, like with 2K and Madden and all that. It's the same game over and over, and people kind of shit on that, but I also think it's a good thing too, because for people that actually have jobs, careers, or do a lot of things in life, it's good to know that you can still know how to play a game. If you have all the time in the world, then maybe, yeah, like play different games. But if you're someone like me that kind of just is busy all day, like has business, like does fitness, does everything like that, like I'm just traveling, work, everything, like I would like to play a game that I at least put a lot of years into prior to kind of at least know 75% of the next installment. That's just my opinion, but again, it gets flamed for being the same over and over, like Madden and all that stuff. But fighting games, I feel, at least Tekken and Street Fighter, they're treating their legacy players really well. They're adding mechanics, but also keeping the real foundation the same as to what really makes fighting games what they are. And as I go back to like transition back to the Olympics, if there's going to be any game aside from, I don't think Call of Duty is going to the Olympics because they have their own CDL thing going on. I'm pretty sure they want a lot of money for endorsements and everything like that. So I'm not too sure if esports, because esports was already, if you didn't see my previous video, I talked about that esports was already approved internationally. And so if esports gets approved nationally, we can start getting like a heavy move forward, especially, I mean, breakdancing was approved and it didn't really do that great. It actually had a lot of negative feedback coming from somebody like me who loves breakdancing and loves dancing in general, hip-hop dancing. I didn't really like the feedback on it, and a lot of people didn't really like it either. I saw a lot of the feedback they were sharing, and it didn't make as much noise as I thought it would possibly make for being that different. But then again, I don't know, people don't like change and people will hate on it regardless, even if it was good. But I don't know, if they could have breakdancing, they're definitely gonna bring esports. Esports gonna bring a hell of a lot more money. Like, people would rather watch like live streams with gaming over like breakdancing and other street dancing styles. So that is pretty cool. Breakdancing's there. Esports definitely gonna make it, so it's only gonna be a matter of time. And when that happens, like what I said, the only FPS game that can garner a lot of audience for sure is Modern Warfare. Oh, you just missed that. I don't know if you're looking at like a League of Legends, CS:GO maybe. CS:GO still has a. If you see CS:GO on Steam right now, holy shit! The amount of people that are still playing CS:GO or CS2 is insane. And I gotta give them props on that. I know a lot of people still play Apex, so maybe Apex, if they can really limit all the cheating stuff. But yeah, those are like a lot of the FPS's type situations. But if I'm going away from FPS, the only two games I'm looking at to be in the Olympics, absolutely, with no hesitation, is either going to be Tekken or Street Fighter. And I'm going Tekken hands down. Tekken just is far more interesting to watch. I think the 2D makes it limiting on Street Fighter. But Street Fighter is Street Fighter. Like, if you love 2D, you love competing in fighting games, you're going to go Street Fighter, right? Mortal Kombat was actually, ironically, the highest voted in my polls with my community twice. I voted 2 different types of polls, and twice it was Mortal Kombat that got the most votes as to that's the game they would want the Olympics. I have no damn clue how you're gonna actually put Mortal Kombat in the Olympics. It has all this gore, has everything like that. It doesn't even let you really do certain things on YouTube with Mortal Kombat. And I could only imagine putting it on a main stage like that. So I don't think that that really works out as much as I love Mortal Kombat. I'm a Mortal Kombat fanatic, and I don't think that that's going to work out. Tekken Street Fighter, though, if anything, if esports does get approved, I hope they approve actual FGC, like fighting games, and then maybe have a 2D genre and a 3D genre, which the 3D is probably only going to be Tekken. But maybe it opens it up for developers to step their game up to bring us another great installment of a 3D game that we all love and adore. Now, all the other 3D fighting games didn't get as much love as Tekken ever has gotten in its entirety, and because it takes a lot, right? You got hitboxes, it's 3D, a lot of things going down in a 3D game versus a 2D game. 2D is vastly a lot more games that are cut and paste versus 3D where you're like legitimately getting into that game and dissecting the shit out of it, and you got to understand everything. So it is understandable why there's very less amount of fighting game fans or fighting game viewers, at least up until this point, up until this recent Evo, which was known as niche, but I don't think so anymore. I think people are now starting to recognize that if you want a career in gaming, fighting games is a great way to go. It is not, but it's a slow burn, right? It's like building a business, a fighting game channel or fighting game, whatever you want to do. So yeah, Tekken or Street Fighter, and I'll give Tekken that seniority over that in order to get accepted for it. If you're going the other games, it might be League of Legends maybe or Apex or something. It has to be something that's going to bring an audience. Now, I know a lot of people disagree with me when I said this also when I put Tekken is best for the Olympics and what is the best esports game then if you don't like Tekken. And a lot of people have great lists and great arguments. And I know a lot of people still like self-proclaim like, oh, Tekken's too niche or whatever, which is true, I guess. But how much, at least it's culturally entailed to giving authentic information and feedback to the audience. You know what I mean? Like Tekken is true to itself right now. Like it's not trying to force itself into the mainstream too much. It did make it accessible for beginners, but a lot of the beginners have already migrated from it because what has been simplified for new entry players is also simplified now for advanced players. So you kind of just like leveled everything out once again. You know what I mean? It was a level playing field all over again. And therefore, the most advanced players that play like Legacy are going to love this game. I, for one, was a brand new person playing Tekken this time around. And I have gotten very far on my ranking now. And I've gotten a lot better. And I understood the whole learning curve. And I was like, oh, yeah, this by far is one of the best games I've ever played in my life. And it's Tekken. Tekken is going to be the best game I played in my life. One, the best game. Two, the hardest game that I ever played in my life. Tekken is hard. It's always in top 10 lists of being one of the hardest games of all time. And it's my favorite game. Why? Because it is the game that single-handedly shat on me so much until I started respecting how to play Tekken. Now, again, Tekken 8 is easier. Right, I've gone back and played some older Tekken since I first started Tekken 8 because I'm new to the Tekken franchise, so I wanted to check out the old ones. The old ones are ass versus the way Tekken plays in my opinion. Tekken 8 plays right now in my opinion, but it's still like Tekken 8 is hard because again, what's simplified for newcomers right now is actually simplified for motherfuckers that have been playing Tekken since like Tekken Tag, you know what I mean, in the 90s. So it is a harder game that it has much more a rewarding system thanks to legacy players, thanks to becoming, and I'm happily announcing that I am a legacy player now. Tekken has me hooked, and it's a game that I feel that it cuts out the fluff, and which is why I feel that fighting games are the best type of games, because fighting games cut out the fluff at the end of the day. There's no like, you don't have to overextend yourself on content, especially content creators these days are very, very annoying with some of the shit they're doing. And so fighting games, in my opinion, are going to be the ones to take over because at the end of the day, fighting games, you can just put up fighting highlights, whether it's funny, fails, or actual combos, you know, like legitimate, anything, tech, whatever you want to do, tutorials, like all of it has to be authentic content and people will call the fluff on it. And people just talk shit just to try to bait you anyways and they're talking shit. So, which is why in a world where content is getting worse and worse, in my opinion, where it's just filled with drama and a lot of fake ass shit, Tekken or fighting games in totality will tell the truth. Now, there is bullshit and there's a lot of gimmicks in fighting games, but it's the most closest thing that if you want to get real competitive in a 1v1 situation, in my opinion, to try to avoid as much cheating as you can. At least if you do an offline type format, you do your own King of the Hill, you make sure everything's good, you're trying to at least keep up with it, you can ensure that there's going to be damn well no cheating. And a lot of people can catch a lot of BS that does happen in fighting games. So, in my opinion, fighting games are going to take over. It is a slow burn. There you go. But fighting games are going to eventually be the best games to ever get into because maybe aside from Souls games and some FPS games, I don't know how long FPS is going to continuously dominate in its reign of terror. I know like FPS is the way to go. Like literally for the last decade or plus, you know, it's been FPS games like at the highest of the highs, meaning any game that came out was definitely going to have to involve FPS. Maybe now we get some more third-person shooters, go back to a little bit more story. Now, I know Souls games and Souls-like games are really, really commercialized now. I still put fighting games over that. Because at the end of the day, Souls games, you're facing AI at the end of the day. Fighting games, you're fighting somebody else at least. And it makes it that much more rewarding. The advancement and just everything that it takes to even become an amazing individual at a fighting game and do it authentically Damn, the reward is so fun. Y'all are definitely missing out if you haven't tried it before, though. Well, y'all let me know what y'all thought about just fighting games and the esports Olympics and just what is the hardest fighting game. And also, if you agree or disagree, drop a comment below. I appreciate y'all. Peace.